Wanting to write is like saying, how do you stay passionate about eating ice cream? I mean, you like it and you keep doing it, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of it, and I get immersed in it, and I'm able to be free. I grew up in Detroit. I was born in actually Highland Park, which is right in Detroit. I'm a baby boomer. There were kids everywhere. I mean, everywhere. It was rare that there was a house that didn't have kids. So we were always outside playing. There was nothing else to do because the TV only had a few channels. There were no computers or anything. We had a big ice rink down the road. We had a football field, a couple of diamonds. So we were always playing ball and doing stuff. We played a lot with our toy rifles and things. I read a lot of short stories. And of course, when I was young, I read fairy tales. I'm talking about, elementary school age. I read fairy tales. I liked the stories. And I remember as a kid growing up, I wanted a typewriter. And my dad wouldn't let me get one. My best subject was reading and English all through school, all the way up. That was the one that just came natural to me. But that wasn't the course of study I followed. I went in a different direction, which was very difficult. My biggest influence was my dad. Both my parents were born in the mid-20s, which means they grew up in the Depression. And growing up in the Depression for most people meant you went to bed hungry a lot. So my father was very adamant that I have a good paying job so that I wouldn't have to go to bed hungry. And his feeling was, you don't study things that you like, you study things that will help you have a good career, and then you can do the things you like as a hobby or something. And that made sense to me. And so that's what geared me. So I wound up doing a lot of science and stuff, which I wasn't really all that good at. It was a struggle for me. It's hard when you're taking a class and you got a lot of other people in the class that it's a natural subject for them and it comes easy and they enjoy it. And you're in there trying to get it, and it's not something that you're really geared for. So that makes it tougher, but I did it. But writing was always easy. I think looking back, maybe what I would have done, instead of going into dentistry, what I might have gone into was maybe been an English teacher, something like that. I'd have summers off to write, but at least I'd be doing something I was good at. Although I will say this, it's good to experience different things if you're going to be a writer. If you just experience only one thing, you're going to have a rather narrow scope in what you can call on in your mental background. After I became a dentist, I started writing some. I had an office in my dental office. So I would go to work all day, have supper, and then I would go back to the office where it was quiet. And I had my typewriter, and I would go in there, and I would work for a couple hours. I also did it when I was in the military, but not as much. I was kind of caught up in other things when I was in the Navy and the Air Force. But it was there, and it was always in the back of my mind. One thing that greatly helped me was when I came back from the Navy, I saw an ad in the dental journal. They needed a prison dentist. And I said, well, I can do that for a few months until something turns up, So I took the job kind of like on an interim basis, but I wound up spending 12 years. And every day I talk to criminals. And I write about criminals. Whether they're Westerns or police procedural, like my serial killer book is set in 2003 in Detroit. Most writers never knowingly talk to a vicious felon. And I talk to him every day, several times, several different ones every day. I always wanted to write a baseball novel. And I actually did write one. I published it last year, but I started writing it in the late 80s. In fact, I had sent the manuscript, an earlier version of it, to an agent and had got an agent. And then I wrote her back and said, well, I'm going back into the military, so I'm going to put everything on hold. She said, okay, well, let me know. So I was in the military for another 6 years, and when I came back out, she had passed away. So I didn't have an agent. So I said, well, all right, I'll keep going. And I started working on the story again, picking up on it, and that's where I got into the Major League Baseball thing. It changed around after that. In fact, I wrote the whole novel, got licensing agreements from Major League Baseball to use the team names and stuff like that. But in the novel, some of the players got killed off, and I thought they might not like that. So I sent the manuscript to them ahead of time so that I wouldn't get sued or something. And they told me, said, no, we're not going to approve this. So they pulled the licensing agreement. And I rewrote the whole novel with a different motive for the killer. I did have a great deal of satisfaction after I finished Season of the Serial Killer after working on it off and on for 30 years. And it turned out really well. It turned out really well. The thing is, my other 3 books, which have been popular, are all Westerns. And so they're 2 different genres. People that are reading Westerns generally don't go over and read thrillers or mysteries and stuff. And it's a very competitive field. A lot of people writing serial killer books. But it's a really good book, and the people that have read it like it. I'm just hoping that more people will read it and it'll take off. I'd like to get more income at it. I'm retired from dentistry now. But also I want to be able to reach more people. There are so many people out there writing and putting out books. It's hard for me to get known. I'm just kind of relying on the writing and hoping that it grows from there. I'm not really approaching it as a job. I'm approaching it as something I want to do, and then I hope that the money comes too, but I'd keep writing even if it didn't come.